Good day, our viewers. This is Dr. Kaveh Lahyun coming to you guys again with another fantastic interview with Dr. Sean McCaffrey. This guy is an amazing dude. He has been speaking in Harvard, in NASDAQ, and in Rockefeller Center. He has appeared 300 times live in ABC, NBC, Fox, and CBS. So please, without further ado, Dr. McCaffrey, give us a little introduction and we'll go from there.
All right. Hey, guys, I'm Dr. Sean McCaffrey. I am thrilled to be here with Kaveh. I'm excited you invited me to do this. I really appreciate this because we're sharing what I believe is a critical thing at a critical point in time in our history for healthcare. You know, we're in a spot in our healthcare that probably is unlike any other time in history. You know, we have a community of people where we are spending huge, exorbitant amounts of income. You know, $4 trillion right now is what our healthcare spending is in this country. It's 20% of our gross domestic product, which means it's a business. It's the largest business in our nation. It's bigger than everything we do that's a profitable industry. And I've always had a problem when you put health and profit in the same box. It can get very skewed, ugly, and dirty in a hurry, and a lot of things get left behind. So to have this opportunity to share what I do and you know what Dr. Kaveh does, and I'm excited about this because, guys, this is eye-opening stuff. This is a way to help people and reach out, and I hope that as we're talking today, all of you that are watching, that will tune in today, right now, maybe later, all of you that are watching this are going to get this idea in your head that, man, there's a lot of ways to kind of polish the stone, right? There's no perfect way. There's lots of ways to polish this thing, and all of them polish it. All of them are beneficial. All of them can help. So you find guys or girls in your area that can do this kind of healing, and that's the key, healing. Help fix the body, and it's amazing what we can do and the impact we can have. So I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Perfect. Dr. McCaffrey, you have been known as the Robinhood of Healthcare. So please, and you have invented the method called McCaffrey Method.
Yep.
Give us some details about that, please.
You know, the Robinhood of Healthcare I like a lot because, again, I feel like we have this system that really is you know, it's almost take from the needy and give to the greedy, right? And I got this idea that, you know, someone has to stand up to it. Someone has to stand up. And so I look through history and, you know, you have Zorro and all these people, right? But Robinhood fit me well because I truly believe that I guess the little person in this, which is all of us, right? If you're not running some multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, we're the little people and we're the ones that get picked on. I think that we needed a voice, and we needed a voice who was passionate, who was clear, but who was also knowledgeable, who had some roots into the history of the profession, roots into the history of healthcare to change things. And so that's really what I believe I'm trying to do. So whether I'm sitting there at NASDAQ in New York, or I'm over in Boston at Harvard speaking to a bunch of doctors and CEOs of corporations, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying, look, guys, there's got to be another way. It doesn't mean it's all one or all the other. There's a blend. There's a mix of these things, and it's meant to work together in unison, but you have to understand the big picture. So in my practice throughout the years, you know, I've evolved and I'm still evolving. I don't think I'll ever stop, right? You're learning, learning, learning. There's no one out there that doesn't have something to share. Doesn't matter what they do. It's from your mechanic to the kid working at the grocery store, you know, putting bread on the thing, to understanding how health works. Everybody has something to share. And if you can take that better piece from that person and incorporate it into your life, then it makes you a better person and a better healer. And that's really what I guess my job is and my goal is. It's kind of my lot in life, was to help people on their path to becoming healthier and feeling great and functioning great all the time. And that's really the goal of this. And so you search out as much as you can. Now, my method, it's really a mix of dozens, if not almost hundreds of different therapies, modalities, things that I've searched out in the last 20 years of my personal experience, my uncles, my grandfather, the past century of looking at these things. I mean, I've got great grandmothers and aunts that were medical, some were health, some were naturopathic, some were gypsy culture, that were old, you know, roots and herbs and plants. It's blending all of these things together and saying, okay, what works best? What doesn't work for me? Discard the stuff that's not effective for me, but don't ignore it. Take the things that are effective, and the stuff that could be effective, can I tweak it a little and make it work better? That's really what the McCaffrey method is all about. So I have a foundation that I follow. I have a baseline. I believe that stress is the cause of all disease. The doctor that said it was up for a Nobel Prize for it, and I don't have one. So I'm like, okay, I'll go with him on that. But we broke it down a little further, and we say, okay, stress. All right, that's so vague. Can I make it more specific? And so I did. I went through and said, you know what? I think men are the cause of all stress. Sorry, doc. It's you and me, baby. We cause all the problems, right? So men are the cause of all stress. Now, what does that mean, right? If you break that acronym down into a little triangle and you follow it along, men, the M, it's mechanical things that go wrong with the body, right? Physical things. My grandpa used to always say it was accidents and traumas and falls. That's all structure, mechanical stuff. All right, that's cool. Emotional things. That's the E. What does that mean? Well, it's also energetic things, right? So now you're looking at my cell phone against my head too long and it gets hot, right? Or you're looking at x-rays, or you're looking at all the technology we have going on, as well as how does your mood affect you? Depression, anxiety, anger, hate, frustration, fear, grief. Do those have an impact on our body? And guys, they do. If you don't think they do, whoo, healing's a long way off for you. You got to dig into those things. The inside then, the bottom of my triangle, mechanical, emotional, nutritional. The M side, or the N that I follow is nutritional. It's what we eat. It's what we drink. It's the air we breathe. My grandpa used to always say, it's what you put in the body or on it. Well, that means it includes viruses and bacteria and funguses and all these pathogens. They enter the body. They get into it. Poison ivy's on the body. But so's beer and pizza, right? You can put that into the body, and that can get it in trouble too. So when you look at the big picture, you say, okay, stress is the cause of all disease. Men are the cause of all stress. Therefore, like Neapolitan ice cream, I just got to figure out, is it chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry that's in trouble? And I take those stresses off the body. It's like monkeys. I tell people, yeah, get the monkeys off your back, man. And if you come in and you see me when I'm working with a patient, I'll run a few exams that are looking at each of the sides. Just get an idea. How many monkeys are on you? All right, if I start pulling them off, your life gets easier. All of a sudden, you're crawling through life, right, trying to get by because there's so many on you. But if I start picking them off, now all of a sudden you can stand. Now you can walk through life. And heck, I pull a few more off. Now you can run through life. And life just gets better. That's really what it is. It's a blend of, I guess, my last 20 plus years of doing this and everything that came before me and my mentors, and saying what works, what doesn't, how do I balance that triangle? That's really what the McCaffrey Method's all about.
Perfect. Dr. McCaffrey, you come from a long list of pedigrees in your family that they have been healers, and in different capacity they have served the healthcare. When you refer to your grandfather, off camera, we had the conversation about him and Dr. Thurman Fleet being friends. Yeah. Which it's
gonna get better for you.
Exactly.
You're gonna love this guy. Are you ready?
So go ahead.
My grandfather's first chiropractor that he saw as a boy was D.D. Palmer. Oh, that was my grandfather's chiropractor, and his mom and dad. That was his family's chiropractor. Was D.D. Palmer. That's who they saw back when he was a child. My grandpa was born, 1885, 89, somewhere around there. So in the early 1900s, he was treated by D.D., and that had a huge impact on his life. About, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be like that. I want to be that guy. And so he went back and became a chiropractor, and he stayed friends with D.D. up until he passed. Now, ironically, he didn't like BJ. How funny is that? He didn't care for BJ very much. He didn't like his attitude that much. And I remember my grandpa, and really more hearsay through my uncles. My uncles say, Grandpa didn't like BJ. He thought he was loud and obnoxious, and he said he wasn't even a good chiropractor. How funny is that? We got a whole profession based around this guy, and here I got my grandpa saying, yeah, he's not even that good. Isn't that crazy? But then he became friends with Thurman. Years later, he became friends with Thurman Fleet. And they shared a lot of stuff back and forth. And as my grandpa started working through this, my uncles got into the field, and then they kind of mentored me. I had one Uncle James for sure, probably had the greatest impact on me as a healer versus all of my mentors together, because James steered me. You know, I was on the fence. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't going to be a chiropractor. That wasn't even in my mind, right? I was going to law school. And I'm like, I'm going to law school and this and that. And I did a little work for a law firm, probate and divorce. And I was like, oh, I can't do this the rest of my life. This is terrible. So I thought, you know, medicine's kind of fun. So I applied to medical school. And while I was waiting to go to medical school, I did volunteer work in a hospital in the renal wing. And while I was there, I watched people come and go and die and lose limbs and get their legs cut off from diet. And I thought, my gosh, I can't do this the rest of my life. And I remember the call. I called my uncle, and it would have been the spring of 99, 2000, somewhere around there. I called my uncle up and I said, man, what am I going to do? He goes, go be a chiropractor. Like, I don't want to be a chiropractor. I don't want to pop necks and this and that. I don't want to do that. He goes, that's not what chiropractic is. He goes, that's what you see today. But he goes, that's not what it is. It's so much more. And he goes, you just need the license. You need to be a physician so then you can practice the way that we're meant to. So literally my uncle gave me a list of who I should look up and find to mentor under. He said, you search out anybody that's still alive on this list. And one of them was Victor Frank. And so I reached out to Vic, and Vic and I became very good friends over the next several years. And Victor held my hand and said, learn this, do this, do this. And he studied with Van Rump, and he studied with Lee, and they were all friends together right back in the day, and Goodhart and Beardall. And so you had this amazing, crazy grip, because Vic had done the same thing that I did. Someone along the way said, hey, go learn from all these people. So he did it 50 years earlier. So he was going all the way back to the early 20s and 30s with some of this knowledge that came out. That's what did it. That was what made the difference. So my family history gave me a way to look, you know, and my spin on like the zone work that Dr. Fleet did, I'm more practical from what my grandfather did. I do it a little different than what they teach in the zone schools, a little different than what Dr. Goldman does, but not a lot. The concept's the same, right? It's the how-to. Because as you learn when you do the work, it's really what's between these 6 inches here to here. That's what does it all.
That's true. Now, just for our viewers and listeners, just to get an idea of how your treatments are different. Say somebody comes into you, how do you start assessing them, and then the progression all the way till when you treat them?
Sure. So if I have a new patient come in, it doesn't matter what they come for. Okay, I use the same model across the board. I follow that stress triangle I was telling you about. I want to look at the mechanical thing. So I'll assess that. And so you'll go through and I'll use, you know, whatever adjusting style you use. It doesn't matter at that point. But I run something called an MMR exam. MMR is a muscle memory reintegration technique. And it's mine. I invented it. And I invented it because I was learning Beardall's work. I was playing with AIMIT, which was Craig Bueller's work. I was playing with a lot of these things, and I found that they were incredibly time-consuming and uncomfortable. And so I thought, gosh, with all the stuff I know, surely I can find a way around this. And I had an intern in my practice for a couple of years. He helped me develop a lot of this. I was testing things. I said, try this for a while. He's like, oh my God, this works every time. I'm like, cool, I got this new idea, try this. So I do the MMR exam where I will literally go through and I will run the postural muscles of the body that hold you up against gravity, the extrinsics. I just chalk them all off, boom, 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 boom. So I get some idea. If you got 10, it's not a big deal. If you got 70, it's a big deal. That means there's huge adaptation that's gone on in this body over time. I then will look at the emotional side of things. I do it more from an energetic standpoint. I run something called a BIA, which is a bioimpedance analysis. Think of it as a like an EKG, but it's an EKG of the cell, not an organ like the heart. Mm-hmm. It's looking at the cell because you are 50 trillion cells. So you're made in your cell's image. So how that cell works, you work. So when you can look at a cell, you can say, oh, hey, it's in trouble here and this is going on. It gives you an idea. Uh-oh, body's not healing very fast. It doesn't have the ability to absorb nutrients quickly. It's not having the ability to have a lot of vitality left in it. We got to recharge it. And the last thing I do is I run something called an IUP, which is an integrated urinalysis panel. In my world, it is probably the single best laboratory test you can run on a human being for the purpose of prevention. We look at blood work all the time, right? But blood work is a damage assessment. It tells you what's broken. Salivary panels, what's broken. All these hormonal things, and you got 23andMe and Vitus and all these people out there, that's all genetic stuff. That doesn't mean much. You want to know, what is the body doing right now? What is it throwing away? What is it holding on to? And is it delivering the parts so the body can repair and heal? It's an early warning sign is what it's really doing. So I run this IUP panel, and it gives me a really good idea of, all right, when they're eating, are they using it? Because we all get caught up in supplements and this and that and so on. Well, you're deficient in magnesium because your lab says so. Okay, but where do you get magnesium from? Right? We forget about the macronutrients. We forget about protein, carbs, and fat, and all of our vitamins and minerals come through those. So if we're not using the parent, good luck on getting enough of the children. And that's really what the IUP tells me. So I get a very good idea. And what's really cool, and I haven't done this yet, I guess I need to, I can adjust off the urine test. I can tell you exactly where the subluxation will be or where the dysfunction will be in the body off the urine test mechanically. Because we're hardwired, right? You can't separate structure and function. So as you see function in trouble, you know the structure has to match. So you literally can go through, look at a urine panel and go, oh, I'm going to do a cervical here. I'm going to hit something around T7, T8. Nope, yep, I'm going to be down around L1. And I'll be damned if you don't go through and palpate and feel, bang, 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 every time. And it matches zones as well.
Now, Dr. McCaffrey, your urine panel, what are you looking in your urine panel? What kind of testing are you doing?
You always run the standard, what you would call the hospital panel first, which is pathological, right? You're always running that standard dip of 8 to 10. We run a 10 panel. You're always running that standard dip, okay? Because you're looking for broken. That's the part of the IUP that shows, just like blood work, what's broken. But the rest of it is like a yellow blood test. It's saying, okay, how is the body relating patterns together? So one column, for example, would be something called indican. You're looking at when I digest my food or I break it down, is it actually breaking down? Is it leaving the gut or is it all rotting right there? And that'll pick up leaky gut, autoimmune disorders, chronic inflammatory conditions. That all shows up in one panel, one test. But this panel is 24 tests. So you're looking at that one. The next thing you look at then is, okay, you just follow it through the body. It goes in. Does it get in all the way? Does it leave the intestinal tract and get inside? If it does, how does the body then absorb it into the cell? Can it absorb it? Can it utilize it? And it breaks it down off the macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. Now that also tells you another story. And as you move further in, you say, okay, now how is it affecting, once it gets in, how is it affecting metabolites? What are calcium balances doing? What's the thyroid doing? The female hormonal system, all of the endocrine system. And you follow it through step by step into electrolyte balance. You'll go into pH of the urine, which is always counterbalanced against the blood. See, blood pH can't change. It has to sit 7.4. You see that it goes 7.45 or 7.35, they're not in our office. They're in an ER. Right? They're in real trouble. So you think, gosh, 7.4 is normal, 7, just a half, right? 7.35, a little tiny bit, and it's catastrophic to the body. So the body has to be able to shift concentration of solutes, other pHs, salivary, intestinal, stomach, urine. It's got to be able to bump these things all over the place to keep that blood constant. Yet we always focus on blood. And it's like, yeah, but it's constant. So by the time you see something in the blood, it's already broken. Urine tells you, get out of the road, here it comes. Blood says, man, it hit them hard. Oh my gosh, they're missing an arm. Right? That's what it tells you. And it's great. It's wonderful for catastrophe. But that's not what most people suffer from. You know, Doc, for fun, let's go back around our triangle. Just to have a little fun here. Let's use the M, the mechanical side, right? All right, mechanical, accidents and traumas. Just today, we'll go with you. Have you been bit by a dog, fallen down a flight of stairs, or hit by a bus today?
No, none of them.
Nope.
None of them.
So
No.
this mechanical thing, it doesn't happen that often. It happens, but not that often. Let's look at the inside. We'll just go around the bottom here, nutrition-wise. Have you consumed something today you probably shouldn't have, right? Have you eaten a Danish this morning? Did you do something you shouldn't have? You know, did you maybe breathe some exhaust in on the way to work?
Yeah, most probably.
Yeah, those things happen a little more frequently than the mechanical stresses do. But now let's look at the emotional side. Just starting out this morning, I got in last night at 2 a.m. I'm tired. I had to then drive and find a hotel. That's frustrating. It's raining. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. There's 3 right away. I finally get checked in. You got to get the car parked. It's pouring down rain. I'm like, gosh, I'm getting wet. I'm cold. I'm frustrated. 4 or 5 more, right? I finally get to bed, then you can't get to sleep. Now I'm anxious. I'm 6, 7, 8. That's in an hour, right? So emotional stresses, those energetic things, they hit us so much more frequently than the other 2 do. And the key to all of this is you got to balance the whole thing. If you don't balance the body, then the body's going to suffer and push back at you. So this is really what it's all about in my world. It's balancing the body, restoring perfect health, restoring normal function the best we possibly can. And that allows someone to get their life back.
Amazing, because even with emotion, you can see, I mean, I'm just thinking about how it could show up in your urine. I mean, it could cause you stress. You have stress hormones being released into the bloodstream, obviously goes through your kidneys. You will pee it out.
And then you get cortisol changes, right?
Exactly.
Cortisol changes are going to affect pH and electrolyte balance in the urine, right? Calcium levels will shift in the urine according to the female and male hormonal system. So you're right. See, you only have 2 ways to deal with things. You got a sympathetic nervous system, right? Which is like a light switch. It's on and off, on and off. And then you got chemicals. So you think of it like the sympathetics, that's like texting, right? You hit send and it's right there. But the chemical way, I'm writing my letter out, I'm licking my stamp, I'm putting it on it, and it gets there, it's just a little slower, right? That's what you want to see. So when you're running the IUP, that's really what you're looking for. You're looking to say, okay, where is this body being pushed the hardest day in and day out before it breaks? And that's the key. You got to catch it before it breaks. That's why it's an early warning sign. Think of it as a body audit. Where am I spending my resources? What bills do I have to pay? And which ones are going to hurt me the most? And that's what you're looking for. So when you know that ahead of time before you ever walk in with a patient, I've already got my UA set. Once I've done my consult with them, I've taken their history, I'm like, here's my tests I want to run. So when I bring them back in for the report of findings, I know I'm going to say, Mr. Smith, look, you got 65 monkeys on the mechanical side alone. Then we found, oh my gosh, we got 9 systems down here that for digestion and absorption and hormones that are all going like this. Do you think any of that has caused you any stress, any emotional stress? And they're sitting there going like, oh my God, it's terrible, right? So you're like, and then all I do is tell them, I have sock monkeys in my room. I got different colored sock monkeys in each room, right? And I say, look, this is what you got. 1 sock monkey on you, it's no big deal. 125, it's a lot of sock monkeys.
That's
a lot of sock monkeys. And so I tell them, I'm going to help you get these off of here. I'm going to pull them off. And the way I do that then is my method. I will go through, I'll assess the body. I'm going to balance all 3 sides of your triangle, and you're going to get all better. And I don't care what you walk in my door with. I don't care what they've diagnosed you with. I don't care what they've called it. I know if I help the body restore perfect health, it can't have disease. They're opposite ends of the same spectrum, right? Health and disease are the same thing. They're just opposite ends of the same thing.
That's right.
So all you have to do then is say, all right, I'm going to restore health. That means disease has to go away. Dysfunction has to go away. And as we do that, they get their life back. It's a fantastic way to practice.
Now, Dr. McCaffrey, you have just opened the whole can of worm here. I don't know which one to grasp and ask you about, but the urine test that you're saying, because it's very interesting, and I do agree with you that blood and saliva test for something that's already broken.
Correct.
So you're basically catching up.
Yep.
But with urine, what you're doing, you're preventing because you can see it before it breaks down.
Yep.
Now, this urine test, do you have it in your office? Where do you get it? How do you use it?
There's a lab. There's a lab that runs it. Okay. And it's a lab that I run the lab. Okay. And I've done this. I taught for Howard Loomis, I don't know, 16, 17 years doing digestive work and enzymes. And that's really where this all came from. And Howard mentored me. He's one of my big mentors, right? He mentored me into this. And as I learned more and more about this, and I understood how it works, so we run the lab. I currently run, I probably have 3,500 offices around the country and world that run these labs. And I have a full functioning lab. It's not my practice. It's a separate standalone. So the lab runs these. I run them for doctors. I run them for individuals. We do a number of different things. And then we have educational things that we do for the doctors to get their feet wet and understand it better. And it really is, how far do you want to take it, right? Because it's not product specific. It's not like, oh, hey, I got to use this product for this thing. It's telling you, look, you really need to pay attention to the small intestine, right? There's an imbalance in the microbiome. How you fix that is entirely up to you, but you just know there's an imbalance there. But what I do like about it is that if we find something and we tell you that it's there, it's there. Urine is a really cool test in that we have billions of samples in the last 200 years that have not changed. See, urine pH, what the urine does, what it monitors, there are literally billions of samples that you can say, look, this is what it should be. And so we can see then how our lifestyle and our environment, right, what I call epigenetics, is influencing our body and the DNA to respond to that. So the IUP for me is an epigenetic profile test. That's what it really is. It's monitoring. How are you adapting to the world you're forced to live in? And by doing that, then I get a really, really good idea of saying, gosh, you know, you had a great loss. Maybe you had a death in the family and you were eating poor and all these stresses occurred. Your body urine is going to show it. It's going to tell you exactly where the body's being pushed too hard, but it's still responding. So as you as a physician can then go in and say, hey, I really need to support this body right here while it's in this time of need. That's how it works.
Wow. So now let's talk about healing.
Okay.
Healing is an art and a science, at least the way I see it.
Yeah.
And most our doctors, they say, you know, as long as you have the intent, you should be able to heal. But unfortunately, intent alone is never enough.
Doesn't do much. Doesn't do much.
Please give our viewers a little snapshot of what you think that healing is all about and the subconscious that needs to be driven on a positive direction to guide that healing.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So Dr. Fleet came up with something he called a composite personality. All right. And we're all in this. Every time you're in a room with a patient, you're in this. One of my mentors, Dr. Romero, used to always say, God is boo. When you walk in that room, you need to look at that chart and say, God is boo, run it through your head and go in and treat them. And I'm like, what is that? What is God is boo, right? God in this case is good, orderly direction. You as a physician, when you walk in there, have to have a good, purposeful, orderly direction that you want to see that body doing. And you have to see it. You can't just walk in there and be like, hey, let's make your ankle feel better today and not know they have an ankle problem. You have to have a plan in your mindset. And you got to stay focused when you're in there in the game. Now, what is the BOO, the B-O-O-O? Benevolent, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. All-knowing, all-powerful, all-present, but also gracious. And the key to this is understanding that we are a mind, a body, and a soul. But you're not a body that holds a soul. You're a soul that has a mind and a body. When the mind and body are gone, soul's still around. It doesn't go away. It's still here. But there's also an energy of some kind in us. And everybody has different belief systems on this. It can be, you know, if you go at it from the quantum concept of Albert Einstein's work in quantum, it's a universal energy. We're all just different versions of one energy. But you can come at it also from a theologic standpoint. It's God inside us. It doesn't matter what religion you choose. Religions are simply man's interpretation of this thing. But the universal laws are the universal laws. They don't care what we interpret it as. They're saying, here we are. So you've got this little spirit or energy inside you. Chiropractic calls it innate, right? And this is where I believe BJ made a little hiccup, right? BJ's like, yeah, just, and the innate will take over. I don't think that's the case. And neither did my uncles or my grandfather or Dr. Fleet or Dr. Frank, right? So the guys that mentored me said, no, that's not the case. You have to tell it what to do, because we were given gifts. We were given the gift of free will and reason. That's what makes us different than your dog or your cat or a horse, right? We have free will and reason. We can choose and we can deduce things. We can think our way around stuff. But the problem with that, what part of your mind does that? Your conscious thought, the one you're in charge of. I can choose to pick up the glasses or choose to grab the cup, right? That's my conscious mind doing that. So now, because of quantum physics and all the research that's been done in this, which is fascinating. All right, well, how often is my conscious mind really in charge of what's going on in my day? Of everything that happens in your 24-hour day, how much are you really in charge of? Quantum physicists say 2%.
That's right. That's
2% of your day, man. That means 98% of what happens in your day, you're not even aware of. And it's like, wow, that's amazing to think, gosh, I had such a hard day and all these things. Oh my God, it was so terrible. And that's 2%. Woo! Scary, right? So you look at this and you think, okay, so that conscious mind, what does it use then to perceive the world around it? Sight, smell, taste, touch, right? Your 5 core senses. But those aren't the only 5 we have. We have internal senses as well. Perception, intuition, will, reason, right? And imagination. Those are also there and they balance one another. And that's what allows the body to focus and concentrate. So when we look at the conscious mind, thoughts come in. We either accept those thoughts as this is how it is, or we brush them off like, yeah, no big deal. So if I sit there, Doc, and I say, hey, I want you to think of a 1957 Chevy in your head, that old car, right? 2 hours from now, unless he really thought about that car, it's gone and back out again. But if he's like, man, I really want one, and I think about it, and I dwell on it, and I focus on it, and I keep seeing stimuluses that show me tires and a car and race, man, it starts building this image in my head that this is what I want. And the body will say, instead of going like this, let's pound it down in to the subconscious. Now, your mind is like a lid on a pot. Okay, so think like a big cooking pot. And you got this lid. You don't have the lid before the age of 7. Before 7, there's no lid. That means anybody walking by the stove can be like, oh, hey, throw some of that in there. And and on they go, right? No big deal. But you don't know what they're throwing in. So it could be things that are incredibly detrimental to your growth over time, and you're not even aware of it. And once nature says, put the lid on it, you no longer have access to it easily. So now these things get down in there, and they stir the pot. And the pot, as you're cooking that soup, guys, it will always manifest itself, what's in that subconscious, in the physical body. And this is Fleet. Fleet said this, but he's not the only one that said this. Dr. Ju taught me this in acupuncture, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. When I did Irish indigenous medicine, they talk about how to use herbs following this mindset. So it's not just one person, it's a whole planet of healers that have figured this out. So now we look at this and we say, well, Doc, we're all over the place here. We got a million things going on. How do we bring it back around? Thoughts become things. That's the easiest way I can say it. Thoughts become things, and things will always show themselves in your body physically and in the world right around you that you're living in. So if everything you touch is turning to crap, odds are really good that 6 inches from ear to ear has got something in there that's poking the bear. You got to get it out. And that's what healers do. Non-healers are technicians. right? I broke a bone. You put it back together. That's not a healer in my world, right? Because you're not healing that broken bone. That spirit inside is going to heal it. You're just putting it back to make it easier. And they're great. We need those, right? We got to have the people that do the surgeries and do this, but those aren't healers. Chiropractic, if I look at the profession as a whole across the board, how many chiropractors are healers? 1%, and that's probably being generous. 99% are not. Why? Not because they don't want to be. They don't know how to be one. You don't know what you don't know, right? You're going through school and they're telling you, oh, this is how you do it and so on. You don't even know what you don't know. You don't even know what doesn't exist out there. But guys, here's the deal. Acupuncture is no different. Ayurveda, no different. TCM, no different, right? Those osteopathy, no different, right? Those fields are the same way. They don't know what they don't know. The principles of being a healer are universal. They don't care what technique, adjusting style, needling pattern, herbal plant you know to do. They don't care. They just know that, look, here's the principles of how everything works. And if you can stay within these principles, any therapy you do will be beneficial. I took the long way around that one. I hope I answered it for you.
Well, no, Dr. McCaffrey, I mean, you just keep opening these doors and we're going to need days to finish this interview. All right. Now, when it comes to healing, you see some people heal faster, better than others do.
Yep.
Especially with the same doctor. I mean, we get the same healer treating two different people and they heal at a different rate.
Yeah.
In your opinion, why is that?
It goes back to the stress thing.
Okay.
It goes back to that. It goes back to, I don't believe that it takes any longer to heal from lupus than it does from my back hurts. Okay. I don't think there's like a, oh, well, you've got this autoimmune disorder that you've been labeled with, and it's going to take 6 months to heal that, where your sprained ankle will take me 4 weeks. I don't think it's that. I think it comes down to every person is an individual. There's no cookie cutter, right? There's no Betty Crocker doctor. Here's how I fix lupus, right? It comes down to how many monkeys are on their back. So if you have someone that comes to you and maybe they've got some disease they've been labeled with and they have 10 stresses in their life, you're like, yeah, all right, I get those out of the way, the disease goes away. But you get someone that comes in that has 90, you got to pick these things off. And you just don't know until you get in there, right? You don't know how many do I have to peel off of here. That's why I run my exams. My exams give me a ballpark idea of what am I looking at here. If I go through my exams and I find 2-3 things, I'll have this thing knocked out in a week, right? If I find 150 things, I'm like, yeah, all right, it may take me a little longer. I get surprised every now and then because sometimes you pull that right block and 30 things go with it, right? So there's no cookie cutter to this. So you know, the way I've always practiced my whole career is I've always gone through, and people say, well, how often do I have to see you until you're better? You know, that's how it works, until you're better. Not months and months and years. I don't expect that. I expect to knock this thing out. So I do everything really in increments of 12 in my practice. I'll see you 12 times, I'll reevaluate. If you're better in 4, cool, you're done. If it takes 9, so be it. But that's what I do. I reevaluate that way. And I just keep on that.
Do you do a wellness too after they're over their condition?
Yeah,
do you do
I call it fishing. So, and I explain this to my patients. I'm like, look, okay, you're all better. You're feeling great. You're all better. I've got everything balanced. You're doing awesome. I want to keep it better, and I want your body to be able to adapt to new stresses, new monkeys in the future. So when you're walking through your jungle and stuff starts jumping on you, I want you to be able to brush those off and not let them hang on. So that's really, I guess we call it maintenance. That's what maintenance is in my world. It's getting the body stronger and stronger and stronger so it can adapt better and better so they don't need me. So I put them on a hook. I say, all right, I'm seeing you once a week until you're all better. Cool. Now I throw you out in the pond. And I start rolling you back in at 2 weeks. You still good? Yeah, I'm doing great. Cast you out 4 weeks. Doing good? Oh, I'm doing great. Cast you out 6. Did great up until 5. And at 5, you know, doc, my knee's hurting me. My belly's a little upset. I'm like, okay, your body's telling me then that 6 is too far for you to maintain perfect health. I'll catch you at 5 or 4, somewhere in there. And we always are probing the fence line. Always, can I go further? Can I go further? Can I go further? I'd like to see them once a year if I could, right? It's not always practical. I have some patients that come in, they're like, doc, I have one lady I see her once a week and I have for a decade. It's not for me not wanting to throw her out. She just says, hey, I love coming in once a week and I feel amazing. Who am I to say that that's wrong for her, right? Good enough. But I also have some I see once a quarter. I'll see them 3-4 times a year. Okay, I'm cool with that. As long as they feel great and they function great and their body's doing wonderful between visits, I'm okay with that, right? Dr. Richard Tan, years ago, always said, don't be afraid to graduate your patients. It's okay to let them graduate and move on. They'll come back when they need you, right? We get hung up in this, I think it's marketing. We get hung up in this marketing idea that, oh my God, we got to see them over and over and over and over. And if you don't do this, you're all going to die. It's not really true though, is it? Right? Look at chiropractic. What percentage of the population do we see? 8, 10%? You know, somewhere in there. That's about it. That means 90% of the population should be dying without us. Does that mean that our service wouldn't make their life better? No, it absolutely would. We could improve their quality of life. But what if they're seeing acupuncturists and they live to be 100 years old? George Burns sat there with his cigar and his scotch basically at 100. Who am I to argue with that? The average life expectancy of a chiropractor back in the day during Venton Logan and Hubie Logan and all was 59. Right? They're being treated, they're the best profession that we think about, right? In the world, these guys are living to 59. Why not longer, right? I don't know if they understood what they were doing all the way. And so I think that there's many, many modalities, many, many ways to achieve health. You find the one that works best for you, and you help as many people as you possibly can to get their life back. And if they need to take a hiatus, I never chase patients. I never go back and say, oh, we haven't seen so-and-so in 6 months. We better call them. I don't need to. They'll find me when they need me. And I'm okay with that, right? But the key is you got to get results in practice. You know, I based Dr. Loomis, when he mentored me when I first came out, Howard said, you know, I like, Howard, how do I build a business? He goes, fix things. I'm like, what? And he goes, fix things. He goes, there's a ton of stuff out there on marketing and this and that. He goes, just fix what walks in your door and you'll have more business than you know what to do with.
Exactly.
That's what I do. I fix things.
Now,
it built my practice.
Dr. McCaffrey, you pointed out something that, in my personal opinion, I think is the paramount to healing. And that was the whole idea about the potting here that you were talking about, the kids up to the age 7 with the lid being closed.
Yeah, yeah.
So most of us, you know, up to the age 7, we're getting these things in our conscious and subconscious. And then once it's closed, it stays in there brewing.
Correct.
Now, right or wrong, it causes, you know, side effects, diseases, feelings, emotions in our body, which keeps on manifesting for years to come. So I just wanted to point that out, that if a doctor understands that concept alone, their life will be a hell of a lot easier when it comes to treating patients.
Man, you got it. You absolutely got it. You know, and that's why you see techniques. What do we got? We got NET, an AET. Gosh, what else is out there? I'm thinking of all these things: emotion code, body code, BEST, all these techniques. And I've been through all of them. I've been through all of them. You know, because I was searching. I'm like, how do I get at this stuff? How do I get at this stuff? And I found now that I have other ways to do it that are more effective for me. But if you're a practitioner and say you do like body code or emotion code, Nelson's work, it's great stuff. It is really great stuff, right? But so is NET. It's great stuff. That all came out of Viktor Frank's camp, right? Those are good. Those are great things. It's not that there's one that's perfect, right? And they all help to get in there and release things that are hidden down inside. See, we run through life the first 7 years in a post-hypnotic state. So when you think about hypnotism, you think someone that's really talented and they can put you to sleep and make you jump around like a dog, right? You know, you do all like, oh my gosh, it's amazing what they can do to the body, right? So when we look at that, we think, okay, that's the state we're in from 0 to 7, sometimes all the way up to 8. So that first 7, 8 years of life, That's the state that you're in. Now, why would nature do that to us? Why would it put us in this post-hypnotic suggestive state? So you can download as much of your environment as you possibly can, as rapidly as you can, to be able to survive for longevity. That's really what it's all about. That's why little kids can learn 3 and 4 languages at one time and keep them all completely separate. You know, and you want to talk about subconscious to subconscious connection. Look at a little kid and how they use the wrong words, okay? You know, they get into all the cuss words, right? But they use them in the right syntax. They use them properly, the right context. They're using these words. They've never said them. You never sat down and told them how to say it. But man, all of a sudden they're like, oh, damn. You know, and you're like, wait a minute, you're 3. How did you learn that? You never even had to say it around them, but they got it because you knew it. And your energy and their energy are merged. You're in a family. You're in a unit together. That's why when you're really close with someone, you kind of can finish their sentences. Mm-hmm. Right? You kind of just know. You're around and be like, wow, something's not right today. Now, is that your sight, smell, taste, touch? It could be those 5. Or is it those internal senses that you've been able to bond and meld together as you became partners with one another? That's how mothers know, oh, so-and-so's not doing well. Their child is struggling without the child saying anything. They just know. Maybe, just maybe, when God put all this together, he sat there and said, hey, look, I'm going to give you a few extra tips here because your idiot's guide to how to raise a kid didn't come with it, right? So you're like, oh, all right. So he gives you these 6 senses that we call them, right? And that's what you're focusing on. There's ways to train those. There's ways to make those more sensitive, more alert, even better. And that's what the healers do. That's the commonality, right? If you look at all the healers from every discipline, doesn't matter what part of the globe they're from, every single one of them believes that there's something else in us that's greater than us that's driving the bus. And they all acknowledge it, and they all try to work with it, not against it. They don't have egos that say, oh, look what I can do. I'm so amazing. That doesn't work. Not in healing. Healing, you got to take a back seat and say, all right, I'm going to learn and learn and learn, but the thing inside is what's going to do it all. I'm just kind of helping guide it a little bit. I remember Victor Frank told me many, many years ago about this idea. He said, you got to learn as much as you can learn, and then you need to forget it all. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. He said, get out of your own way. And it probably took me a decade to understand what Victor was saying. And I go back and I look at Dr. Fleet's work, and he's saying, get out of your own way. I look at Dr. Nelson's work, whether it's emotion code or body code, get out of your own way. Best's work, Ted Morter's work, get out of your own way, right? But here's the kicker. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do emotion code. I'm going to do nothing but ask the body questions and all this stuff. Because if you don't have the base knowledge, you can't get out of your own way because you don't have the foundation to build on. And that's where I see a lot of these other techniques getting in trouble with their practitioners. They don't have that base knowledge. And so they try to do the work and it's like, yeah, but it didn't really work for me. Well, because you didn't have the knowledge to forget. You got to learn it first, then forget it. You can't just forget it and be like, oh, yeah. Right? You got to know something. That's how it works.
Dr. McCaffrey, I know time is short, but the questions are many. Hopefully you can come back because we generally get questions afterwards from different people and they get submitted, and we always like to have our guests back so we can go over the questions. Now, for your closing remarks, let us know where people can find you. Give us the website address, you know, if you have Instagram handles, no handles, all those things.
My bride knows this better than I do. So, man, I just go to work and heal. That's what I do. So, but I'll give you some stuff. McCaffrey Health, and it's McCaffrey health.com. That's my main webpage that I do. I have, of course, Facebook. Just type in McCaffrey. You can't miss me. I'm always the hat and I'm always the shamrock. DrSeanMcCaffrey.com, my bride just told me.
Even better.
Great places to do this at, right? So those are the easiest ways to get in touch, you know, to do this sort of thing. And I guess my closing remark for everybody is there's nothing that the body cannot improve, heal, and get better. Nothing. It doesn't matter what someone's told you. It doesn't matter what you've had put into your head. There's very, very, very little that I've ever seen that the body cannot overcome. And if you believe that that universal intelligence, that universal energy that's in you, if it can build an entire universe, it can build a planet and everything that's on it, why in the hell then could it not fix the thyroid? Why couldn't it help a GI problem? Why couldn't it help heartburn or reflux or some circulatory thing? Why couldn't it do that? Right? That's so small. It's so infinitesimally little. You just have to get to practitioners that understand what Dr. Kaveh and I are talking about here, how to help the body guide it along its path and allow it to heal. And if you can do that, man, I'm telling you, amazing, amazing things can happen. That's what it's all about.
Dr. McCaffrey, I am grateful for the time that you had for us. Our viewers and our listeners, this was Dr. Sean McCaffrey. He's called the Robinhood of Healthcare. This man is the creator of McCaffrey Method, and we are grateful to have you here. Please do come back at another perfect time for you. Hopefully we will have some more discussion.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate it a lot. It was a great time. I enjoy doing these things. You know, I enjoy reaching out, allowing other docs, other people to kind of get an idea of what's out there, right? It's why I do my mentoring program. It's why I run the IUP. All these things are ways, you know, to help doctors get their feet wet, understand the work, and see the possibilities that we can do. Because, man, I'll tell you, when you're a new doc or you're someone that's been out there for 30 years in the trenches, and maybe you struggle with something, when you fix that first thing that's been beating you up, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that got better. And then you make that a habit. It's not like, oh, it randomly got better. It's, oh, I can do it every time it walks in my door. And you start doing that, now you're on your road to becoming a healer. And the more healers we can turn out, the better we're going to be in the long run. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the time and the interview. It's a good time.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you later.
All right, Doc. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye now.